Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the International Book Show, hosted by myself, Makonnen Sankofa. I am, as well as the host of the International Book Show, I'm also the author of the books The Rise of Rastafari, Resistance, Redemption, and Repatriation, Life in Gambia, The Smiling Coast of Africa, How to Market and Sell Your Book, A Guide for Beginners, and Experiences of Living Across Africa. Now, the International Book Show, it began in May 2020. It's now been over 4 years since I've had this platform. And it's a really great platform where you'll be able to hear and watch a variety of authors talk about the books that they've written, books ranging on a variety of different subjects. So the format of the show is that you'll be hearing from, as I mentioned, a variety of authors one by one. They'll be have a certain amount of time that they'll be speaking, and they'll be telling you, all about the book that they have written. So on this particular episode of the International Book Show, September 2024, we have a great lineup of authors who will be on the show. So without any further ado, I'm going to now hand it over to the first author that will be telling you all about the book that they've written.
Hey everyone. My name is Marlon McKenney, and I'm an author and an illustrator, and I am the founder of Conscious Culture Publishing in San Francisco, California. And what we specialize in is half African historical fiction, telling those stories that need to be told. At this point, it's so important that our voices for African and people of color are sharing their authentic, real stories about their history and their culture and really spreading it to the world. Because if we don't talk about our voices, then who else is, right? So with that being said, what I want to do is just show you a little bit of some of the artwork and some of the books that I've been working on probably for the past like 6 years. So like I mentioned before, my name is Marlon McKenney, and Conscious Culture Publishing is my publishing company. And probably had like 20 plus years of experience in advertising. I'm a creative director, an author, and an illustrator. As I said before, founder and chief creative at Conscious Culture Publishing. And it was probably perhaps maybe 7 years ago. I've been working in the industry, advertising industry, and animation industry a long time. And it got to a certain point where I'm doing all this stuff for these big corporate companies, big corporate clients. And I'm like, well, what am I doing for my community? And that's when I started Conscious Culture Publishing around 7 years ago. And these are some of my titles right here. We've got Alice in Wonderland Remix, showing you the book right here, The Genius of Egypt, part one and part two. We've got Makita, the Queen of Sheba, as well as Uptown Dragon. And I actually illustrated and wrote all of these different books, obviously with the help of a team as well, editors and some writers to help me kind of bring my vision to life. And what I want to do is just kind of go through some of the books because they are quite unique compared to a lot of other books out there. And for the most part, a lot of this is children's picture book content. Of course, if you're a teenager or a young adult, you could also enjoy these books, even adults as well, because I really try to take a real pride in the illustrations and making the visuals of the African and historical fiction really come to life, as well as ebooks. And you can also can see some animation online as well. So the first book that I ended up doing when I started my publishing company was Alice in Wonderland Remix. Just basically kind of taking that old story and remixing it with some African and African American themes. But one of the biggest differences between the illustrations that I do and you see a lot of other people do is because I worked in the video game industry for a while, I ended up taking it to the next level and creating all of the characters in 3D, which is really cool. I mean, a lot of times these kids nowadays, they go to the movies and they look at all these different characters and they're so used to things being three-dimensional. I just really wanted to bring that to the diaspora. And the cool thing about that is you can also animate as well. When you have these characters that are rigged and modeled, you can express yourself in so many different other ways by bringing them to life with animation. So the first book that I ended up doing was Alice in Wonderland Remix. As you can see here, some stills from it. Tried to pull in some like even some hip hop themes. You think of like Flavor Flav with the clock around his neck, and the rabbit's actually a DJ. Really trying to make it more relevant to kids nowadays. And then one thing I really highlight a lot of times in my books, like when you're looking here, you may see some great African and African American leaders. If you're walking a kid through that and they're like, who is that? Then in the very back of my books, there is also a thesaurus where you can say, hey, this is, Barack Obama, this is Bob Marley, this is Haile Selassie. So the children can learn more and more about their culture, but in a fun and engaging way. And this is also imagery from Alice in Wonderland remix. As you can see, also have the queen here, who's a black woman. I changed the rabbit to a DJ, so it's just more relevant about what's going on nowadays. A really exceptional book, and you can buy it even now, right now on Amazon.com. Matter of fact, you can buy all of these books on Amazon.com. And this book right here is called Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. It's about the Ethiopian princess that ends up becoming a queen. And for this book, I actually won a Biba Award, Independent Book Award for this book for the artwork. And if you really break this book down, it's so much about female leadership. That's the whole point of this book. Is really showing really strong leadership between females. I have a daughter myself, and I thought it was really important that when you're looking at history and you're looking at these great black female leaders, that they have someone to look at and to kind of pattern themselves after. So I dug really deep and did a lot of research about Makeda and wrote a nice little story about her. As you can see here, even looking at the illustrations, wanted to make this feel like a movie, make it feel really, really cinematic, right? And during this book, she learns a lot of information and mentorship from her mother and her father, but unfortunately, her father ends up getting killed in the book, and so she must kind of take the reins and lead the Aksum Empire or Ethiopian Empire towards a victory in their fight against an evil menace. So it was really important for me to make sure that we have all kinds of different shades of colors from darker to lighter, just to show the full breadth of what Africans were looking like during this time. I did a lot of research and really wanted to provide some beautiful illustrations for kids to really soak their teeth into and learn more and more about their culture. So this was Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. And another one of my books is Uptown Dragon, about a little boy growing up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I mean, we've seen a lot of different movies out there with dragons, but when's the last time you've seen, a young black boy hanging out and kicking it with the dragon, right? And of course, like I was saying before, all of these designs, everything is done using 3D. This is the baby dragon at first, Ziggy. But what happens is he finds his dragon while it's small, but it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So young Kamal starts trying to figure out a way, how can I hide this giant dragon from my parents, from the authorities? And yeah, that's Kamal. Yeah, busting some moves there for everybody. So yeah, throw your hands in the air. Yeah, you can do it, Kamal. But that's the cool thing about doing all the illustrations in 3D. So here's a couple of stills from the book, Uptown Dragon. This is when Kamal first finds this radioactive, it's basically a dragon's egg while he's riding his bike. This takes place in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, so it's more of an urban themed environment, young boy. So once he kind of picks up this egg, he brings it back home, and oh my goodness, it hatches. It hatches, and now we have this little baby dragon. And then most of the story is him trying to hide it or keep it away from his parents until eventually they find out. And then the things he has to go through with authorities and the police and all that to get away and survive this huge undertaking that's going on in his life. And if you look in the background, I still like to bring in like all these subliminal elements, like the picture of Bob Marley in the background. You can barely see it, but there's also like a image of Muhammad Ali in the background, just so kids can get used to seeing these really famous, influential African American people. And even the book right here, it says it talks about Marcus Garvey, and then they're playing Othello, who was also a black man. In terms of Shakespeare. So really, really try to bring that across in a lot of the work that I'm doing. And here's another still. This is when the dragon ends up, becoming full grown. And you know what happens if you see a black kid on a giant dragon, the cops are coming after you. So that was also an element of this book that I wanted to add. It's also a little bit about, police brutality and the things that we go through in a community when we're just trying to live and have a good time, be curious and learn. This is something that we all people of color have to go through with authorities, with police brutality, and the over policing of our communities. So it's more of a kind of a tip to the hat for that. And then last but not least, this is my newest book. It reads a little bit more like a graphic novel per se because it has a lot of frames similar to like a comic book, but it's about Imhotep. I don't know if you people know, Imhotep is one of the world's first multidisciplinary geniuses. Um, Really smart guy. He was a priest. He was the architect of the first pyramid, which was called the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, still in Egypt to this day, and initially showing the process of how he was able to build this magnificent colossal pyramid, and it was the first one that was ever built. And if you start going through the book, here's a little bit of animation with Imhotep, because he was known as a priest and a magician at the time because the Egyptian believed a lot in magic. And like I said before, one of the things about conscious culture, we're really future forward. And we understand that our competition is the Disney and the Warner Brothers and the Pixar. So it's important that our visuals, that our creative, and our drawings, our designs, and everything is at a high level to bring our kids in, bring our young people so that they will respect and admire their culture and all of the forefathers and foremothers and people that came before us and get them really inspired about learning more about African history. So this is one of the stills from The Genius of Egypt 2, Rise of the Pyramid. Got one of the books right here. Boom, boom, boom. And we also have The Genius of Egypt Part 1, which kind of is more of the background story of how Imhotep became to be the grand visor of of the um, of the pharaoh. And if you want a little bit more information about that, feel free to go to consciousculturepublishing.com to pick up the book, or well as it's on Amazon and just get a little bit more information that, or even do a Google search and read a little bit more about Imhotep. And this is some of the stills. It really breaks down how the step pyramid was built. I know there's a lot of misinformation talking about aliens and all kinds of far-fetched stories, not trying to give the indigenous African folks their props for all of the beautiful wonders of the world that they've created. So this, I did did a lot of research, and this is literally breaking down how it was constructed based on science, not from tomfoolery, if that makes sense. And then just some more imagery as well. I always think it's important that when I'm putting together a book, that it's entertaining and entertaining for kids, and it has a plot that has twists and turns, and it's not boring, and it makes sense. So even with this book talking specifically about the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, I do have some action characters, some villains, and just a lot of fun adventure for kids or young adults to have fun with while they're reading this book. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing for me is this right here. The folks, the people that buy the books. And, we sell thousands of books a year to people all over the place. I was in DC recently for BlurredCon, which was really great. LA, Philly, all kinds of different places just to spread the word. It's so important that the kids nowadays see picture books and images of themselves so that they can instill confidence and pride in their culture and move like the kings and queens that we were born to be. So thank you very much. Thank you, McKonen. I appreciate you for letting me come on and talk about Conscious Culture Publishing. If you guys would like to order any of my books, feel free to go to Conscious Culture Publishing to order any of the books. ConsciousCulturePublishing.com. My name is Marlon McKenney. You can see me also on Instagram, Marlon McKenney, at Marlon McKenney. And please support Black authors trying to create African historical fiction with content that our kids need. Great. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate you guys. Back to you, McKonen.
Well, thank you very much, Marlon, for joining us on this edition of the International Book Show, September 2024. If you are interested in purchasing a copy of any of Marlon's books, you can get them via the website www.consciousculturepublishing.com. Alternatively, the books are also available to be purchased from via Amazon. And you can see the photo of one of Marlon's books on display there. This particular book is Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. So once again, that's author Marlon McKenney from Conscious Culture Publishing. He's the founder of Conscious Culture Publishing, and his website is www.consciousculturepublishing.com. The books are also available to buy online via Amazon.
Hi, I'm Jendella Benson. I'm the author of 2 books, Hope and Glory, and my latest book, All That We've Got, which came out in July of this year. All That We've Got is set over one relentlessly hot summer when the lives of 2 young women collide in the most unexpected way. Mimi and Abby are at the center of the book. They are neighbors, but they're also very isolated young women. Mimi is a young mom who left home to escape the scrutiny and speculation around the birth of her son and the man who fathered him, while Abby is a teenage girl and she's just itching for excitement after completing her GCSEs, but she also knows that she wants to help out her mum as well. So when Abby goes missing and their city erupts into flames, our girls have to wrestle with ideas around loyalty, justice, and community. Now, the inspiration for All That We've Got, it really started with a conversation with my friend Selena Gray, who was doing research around girls and gangs for her MA. We used to have these really long conversations around what it was like to be a young Black teenager in Birmingham, where I grew up, and also in South London, where Selena grew up. So we had these conversations around girlhood, gangs, just the perils of being young, and yeah, all those kind of stories, sharing experiences. And at the time, I kind of knew that I wanted to write a book about it. I was like, I definitely want to write about this. My friend Selena was like, you definitely need to write about this. But I wasn't ready. I just was not ready to write about it then. So I wrote my debut novel, Hope and Glory. And after I'd written that, after I had that experience and kind of had finished a book, I felt like I was in a place where I could tell this next story, this story that is really personal to me. It is really important, and one that I needed to be like in an emotionally ready position to kind of communicate. The book is also inspired by the political climate as well, austerity, community breakdown. I write that the city that Abby and Mimi live in is not like a real city, it's actually a fictional city, but the environment that they live in is very real. The environment that they're both trying to navigate and survive within is created by, unfortunately, like 14, 15 years of austerity government policies. It's kind of exacerbated the community breakdown that we see happening around us, where we feel like we can't really trust each other, like kids are kind of left to their own devices. People who are struggling feel like they have to just do it by themselves. There's no like support network. So that was also a big inspiration for the book. I also really wanted to address issues like county lines and kind of gangs and grooming, but I wanted to do it from the perspective of young girls, because often when we see these storylines addressed, if they are ever addressed, because they're still like not prominent storylines, but when they are addressed, it's often from the point of view of young men. And I get that. I understand why. Like, I have two sons, I get why. But when you're not telling the story from the perspective of young women, you're missing out on like 50% of the story. So I really wanted to kind of center the perspective of young girls in that experience and in these environments. Mimi's character was also inspired by a project that I did a few years ago called Young Motherhood, where I interviewed women who became mothers at a young age, all about their experiences, whether it was the good, the bad, the challenging. So she's not based on any one character, but just kind of all of those stories and all of those experiences that I was collecting really informed who she was as a character as well. And yeah, man, girls and young women, they're just at the center of my work. I think it is so important. There's a quote by Toni Morrison, which I am kind of paraphrasing, but she basically says that no one paid very much attention to us, so we paid attention to ourselves. And I feel like that has been the ethos of my work so far. Like, I am telling our stories, the stories that are overlooked, the experiences that are not deemed important, the voices that are often silenced or just ignored outright. I want to tell those stories, which is why young women are at the center, because young women are often ignored. It's a really personal book to me. I was so nervous to put it out because I know how people can get about fictional characters, about their decisions. With Hope and Glory, Glory, the main character, is a very Marmite character. You kind of love her or you hate her. And I know from speaking to readers that she elicited a lot of really strong feelings. So knowing how people responded to her, I was quite concerned about putting Abby and Mimi out into the world. Like, they don't always make the best decisions, but who does? They're going through some really hard times. They are young, but ultimately, like, I love them like real people. Like, my characters are real people to me. They're not imaginary, they're real people. So yeah, I was a bit nervous to put it out, but so far the response has been really encouraging. People have really met these two young women with compassion, with understanding, and with thoughtfulness. So I feel like, yeah, I did a good job. If I can say that, yeah, I did a good job. Writing Abby's character was really interesting because obviously I am not a 15-year-old girl, but I was once a 15-year-old girl. And part of that process was delving into my diary. So I've actually kept a diary from when I was 15 years old. So thankfully I had these to hand and I went back reading through all these old entries. It was very revelatory. It was very interesting. There was a lot of cringe moments because teenagers are hilarious. But it really informed how I wrote Abby as a character. And also, I think just on a personal level, it was quite therapeutic to kind of go back over this point in my life, because it's very easy as an adult to kind of look back and be like, oh my gosh, like, why was I so silly? Why was I so stupid? Why did I do that? Oh my gosh, so cringe. And you don't necessarily have compassion for yourself, like when you're looking back. So kind of going back and reading these entries of 15-year-old Jendella was very therapeutic and also quite fun and quite funny. If you're interested, I have a mini series on my Instagram, which has all of like some excerpts from the videos that it has some excerpts of me reading from the diary, so you can go and read that or watch that and kind of get your cringe, get your lulls in as well. Writing All That We've Got was actually really hard. As fun as it was to kind of write a 15-year-old character, it was actually really hard. And I think on two levels. First of all, like stylistically, from a craft point of view, I really wanted to challenge myself. So there's two dual storylines. You hear from Abby and you also hear from Mimi. Sometimes their timelines overlap, but they're also kind of like two separate stories happening at the same time. That was quite like practically challenging to write. And then also it was just like really hard because the subject matter isn't easy to address. There were some scenes that even now when I read back, like tears still come to my eyes, like reading it, because like I said, these characters, they're real to me. Like I don't just kind of take it lightly when I'm writing these stories. So yeah, that was hard. But one thing that I will definitely say is that I do not go in for trauma porn. Like, even though I knew that there were stakes that needed to be raised, like there also needed to be a real sense of peril and danger to like really like move the story along and to really communicate what was at stake. I didn't want to unnecessarily cause harm to my girls or make their pain or trauma a spectacle. It's something that I take really seriously as an author. So that was a bit challenging as well, like knowing how to walk that line as an author, because you want it to be real, but you also don't want to traumatize yourself and you don't want to traumatize the reader. Well, I don't anyway. And also, like, I take the safety of Black women and girls really seriously. And I don't want to, make our pain or our trauma like a spectacle for people to just be like consuming for entertainment. Like, that doesn't feel good to me. So, yeah, that was another line that I had to navigate, but I think I did it all right. So, yeah. Finally, I'm just going to read a little bit from the book so that hopefully you can get a little flavor of what the story is about. So for some context, this part of the book, Abby and her two friends, Deanna and Afia, have just met up with Tyrex and Zed, who are two members of the group of guys that they get involved. I hate using the word gang because it's just such a problematic like racialized term, but for the sake of ease, two members of the gang that they get involved in, they've met up with them for the first time and they're kind of like getting to know each other. They're smoking, they're feeling their way around each other. So, Abby, you're gonna hook man up or what? Ty drawled over his shoulder. Not got a comb or hair grease. You're lying, Deanna said from her seat. You've always got your hair stuff in your bag, innit, Af? What's wrong, Abs? Ty teased. You don't want to do man's hair? Don't call me that, Abby snapped. Oi, this one's got some fucking teeth on her. Ty slapped his thigh and laughed lazily, tipping up onto the back two legs of his chair. I just came here because Dee said you could get us work. I didn't come here to do no one's hair, Abby said, looking at the half annoyed, half pleading look on Deanna's face. She was yapping around this Tyrex like she was a lost puppy, and it was beginning to piss Abby off. I hear it, Ty said, rubbing a hand over the sparse hairs on his chin. But in this business, we need a little rapport building. You see it? You want in, but I don't fucking know you from Adam. All of this, he made a circular motion with his hands, encompassing the small garage, the car ride, the smoking, the incoming pizza. This is me getting to know who the fuck you are. Ty locked his eyes on Abby and she returned his stare. Yeah, she said finally. Oi, Deanna, go in the car and get the Bluetooth speaker. It's probably under the passenger seat or something. Ty stood and dropped a set of keys into Deanna's lap. He pushed one of the chairs towards Abby, took off his cap and took a seat in front of the washing machine. Your hair's dry. It's going to hurt when I comb it. Abby opened up her bag and took out a small bottle of oil and some combs. I'm a big boy. The smirk in Ty's voice flattened out his syllables. I can handle it. Abby took the wide tooth comb she had and began at the ends of Ty's hair, detangling as carefully as she could. Deanna came back with the Bluetooth speaker and set it in Ty's lap, who took out his phone and selected a track. Abby recognized his own voice rapping over the beat. Deanna, bill another Zed, Ty ordered, pointing towards the paraphernalia Zed had left on the table. Wait, is that why you call him Zed? Afia asked slowly with an intoxicating snicker. Zed and Zeds. Deanna giggled and Ty smiled, but he looked thoughtful. One of many reasons, he finally said. Afia went and sat next to Deanna, scrolling through her phone as Deanna got to work with the weed grinder. Abby wondered when Deanna had learnt to do that. As far as she knew, the smoking was a new habit. She continued to work away, carefully detangling and sectioning and oiling Ty's hair. You need water for moisture, she mumbled. You say my head's dry and picky, Ty bantered. I don't want to break it, Abby said, dodging his attempts at humor. When Deanna was finished with the spliff, she stood and presented it to Ty. He inspected her handiwork, gave her a curt nod, and she went back to her seat to join Afia in her scrolling. Ty lit the spliff, getting more comfortable. The space between Abby's thighs was narrow, and his shoulders were trapped tight. So, to smoke, his arm had to curl out and over her leg so he could bring the joint to his lips. When he had taken his totes, he let his hand rest on her thigh. Abby could feel the back of his thumb rubbing lightly against her jeans. Your hands are soft, he said in a low voice as Abby finished off the first of the cornrows. She didn't say anything. Her heart was racing, and she looked quickly towards Afia and Deanna, wondering if they were seeing this, but they were both facing away from her. So you want to make money, yeah? Ty murmured. I need to make money. Abby's voice was tight. What you need money for? You want Jordans like Deanna? You don't need money for that. You just need a man who's going to buy you that. Abby was trying to work out what was being said without being said. Then she finally asked, are you Deanna's man? Ty laughed. Is that what she told you? No. Well, is that what you want? Jordans? Abby paused, not sure how much she should tell him. I want to help my mum out. She works too much. Ty nodded, curling his hand back over her thighs to take another toke. If I help you make money, you can't let your mum know how you're getting it. It'll fuck up the thing for all of us. I won't. And you can't just turn up at home with big piles of cash. You gotta be discreet. Help your mum, but don't make her suspicious. I'm not dumb. Ty chuckled. All right. Tell me about your mum. Where's your dad? Abby paused again, waiting until she completed the next cornrow before she finally spoke. He don't live in this country. Where's he live? He from Yards? Nah, Nigeria. Oh, swear. Ty sounded surprised. Yeah. He took another deep pull, then his hand went back to its resting place, his thumb rubbing up and down, looking thoughtful once again. You want some of this? He held the joint aloft, and Abby's fingers worked quickly to finish the third cornrow. Go on, man, loosen up. Pizza's coming. We're going to have a good fucking time and we're going to make some fucking money, more money than you could ever imagine. Even send your dad a stack too. Abby wiped the oil from her fingers on the front of her jeans and took Ty's gift with a careful hand. As she drew on the rope, she felt the heat warm her lips and heard the Rizzler crackle. Her mouth filled with smoke and she inhaled, feeling her chest expand. She swallowed, still holding her breath before releasing a spout of smoke in one long, measured breath. Yeah, Ty laughed, watching her from upside down, where his head was now rested in her lap. You're fucking gangster, that's what I'm fucking talking about. He laughed louder, his silver caps glinting under the bare bulb. I hope you enjoyed that. All that we've got is out right now, wherever you get books from. It's also available as an ebook, and there's an amazing audiobook version read by the actress Nneka Okoye, who you might know from Riches and other amazing TV shows and productions. So yeah, if you do read it and you do enjoy it, feel free to drop me a message. I love to hear from readers and just keep the conversation going.
And where can people contact you in case they want to leave you a message?
You can get in touch with me on social media. I'm Jendella on Twitter, Jendella on
Well, thank you very much, Jendella Benson, for joining us on this edition of the International Book Show, September 2024. On screen, you can see a photo of the front cover of her book. Her book is available from various different retailers, including Amazon, bookshop.org, Foyles, Waterstones, and W.H. Smith. Also, feel free to check out her website, www.jandela.co.uk.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bharti Dhir, and I'm the author of this book called Worth. And this book was published in March 2021, still as relevant today in 2024 as it was then. So essentially, Worth is my memoir, and it's about being abandoned in Uganda in the 1960s, when I was just a 2-3-day-old baby. And it's about me being of dual African Asian heritage and being adopted by an Asian Punjabi family. So I've called it Worth because it's been both a very loving and very positive experience being adopted, but not so much from the community itself. So being brought up in an Asian community in Uganda and just experiencing the sexism, or understanding what sexism was, when my parents were told, "Why are you adopting a girl? She's going to bring great dishonor on you. She's going to be a burden on you." So that sort of is the sexism I'm talking about. And then the racism, because I was part African and part Asian, although initially the newspapers said I was Asian, it was soon transpired I was actually dual heritage. So again, just that racism about me being part African and people saying you're adopting an African child, saying things to my mother like, people are going to think you've had an affair with an African man, or saying to my father, everybody's going to think you've had an affair with an African woman, and it's going to bring dishonor on us as a family. So becoming aware as a child of those types of messages, there was also a prevalent message about being illegitimate and how I was going to do exactly what my birth mother had done and actually end up getting pregnant out of wedlock, and what a disgrace that would be, and what a great dishonor it would be. So a lot of repression about, generally I would say as girls, we were really forced to conform to society's views of how we should be and what we should be and what we should behave like, what good girls do and what good girls don't, bad girls do, that sort of scenario. So there was a lot of prejudicial attitude towards illegitimacy as well. And I know that carries on in many cultures. So as I got older, I developed a skin problem called epidermolysis bullosa, which is basically blisters on the skin. It's irony, isn't it? It's ironical when you have a black skin and yet you might be allergic to the sun, which is what I was told then. So your skin tends to blister up and is very fragile. So I developed that when I was 8, and of course then that added to even more prejudice about my condition and whether it was infectious and whether people could go near me, and being shunned in school and being shunned when I went to families, with my family for dinner or a social gathering. So all those experiences had a real impact on my sense of worth, and I felt it was really important to write Worth because of that, and to really highlight the fact that a lot of adults don't understand the impact of their words on a child's sense of esteem and worth, and that children hear far more than adults realize, and children experience far more than adults realize. And it was just, highlighting to me that adults think they can say whatever they want in front of a child in regard to their race, their gender, their color. In African societies and Asian societies, color is so prevalent. Colorism is, the lighter and fairer skinned you are, the more attractive you're deemed to be. The darker you are, the less attractive you're deemed to be. So that's the sort of message I grew up hearing, and hearing people say things like, she's never going to find a partner. She's never going to get married. She's too ugly to be married. And somewhere in my book, I've written about, about the fact that for years and years, I had compared myself to Asian ideas of beauty, Western ideas of beauty, and I found myself really wanting and not really accepting myself, and really looking in the mirror thinking I really was very, very ugly. And I know that since I've written this book, there are many people that have come forward and told me similar experiences of not wanting to accept themselves, or not being able to accept their sense of beauty, their sense of who they are, because of such, messages around colorism and around who they are. And especially when you look at us growing up in England, which is where I'm from, and the racism, and children actually thinking that they're not feeling accepted by society because of their color, or because of their religion, or because of their race, or because of their creed, whatever it is, they're not accepted. So I just really wanted to highlight from my memoir that messages like that can be really damaging, and for people to be aware that we have to work hard to find our sense of worth. And that's even within the community itself. So why do we do it to each other? Why do we bring our children down as well? And when we should be empowering and strengthening them. So I just wanted to say that this book is about finding my sense of worth. It's about discovering a sense of spirituality. It's about holding my head up high and saying to people, I am who I am, and I accept fully who I am. I'm a proud Black woman, and I am a single mother. I adopted a child, and again, that miracle is in this book. It's all about how I managed to adopt her, and how my parents adopted me, and the sort of experiences they went through. So I just want to just read a couple of affirmations. So I've said, when I allow my self-worth to rise, negative thoughts and feelings evaporate. I believe in the power of my worth. I believe I'm worth it every moment, every second, all day and all night. And the most important thing I want as an essential message from this book is, when I show compassion to others, both my worth and my confidence grow. And that this book actually epitomizes everything that I stand for: compassion towards others, anti-discriminatory attitude towards others, building each other up, believing in humanity, and believing in the worth, not just myself, but of the community and of people in the world as a whole. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Bharti, for joining me on this edition of the International Book Show, September 2024. Bharti Dhir is the author of the book called Worth. You can buy Worth at several places, including Amazon, Waterstones, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, Booktopia, and Indigo. You can see on screen at the moment as well a photo of the front cover of Bharti Dhir's book, Worth. The next author that we're going to be hearing from, where she's an author publisher, and also she's one of the sponsors of the International Book Show. You can see I'm hovering over her organization, her company, Education for All Now. I just want to take this point, to shout out to all of the sponsors of the International Book Show. You can see Jimmy Asher Foundation. Jimmy Asher Foundation have sponsored the International Book Show since the first one in May 2020. So shout out to Joseph, CEO of Jimmy Asher Foundation. We have here Pete English Literature YouTube channel. I should say Pete English Literature. Pete English Literature. So the videos of the International Book Show virtual book tour, they go on to Pete English Literature YouTube channel, which is a massive YouTube channel, which has got almost 12,000 subscribers now. And we normally get about 1,000 views of people that watch our virtual book tours when we upload them onto YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, this video will be going later on YouTube. And yeah, the founder is Peter Okonkwo. I actually met him when I was in, I knew him previously online, but I met him in person last year at the Ake Arts and Book Festival when I went to Nigeria. That's where he's based. But yeah, the YouTube channel, Pete English Literature, which is, we have a partnership agreement to put our videos on the channel. And, there's a lot of great content and interviews, that are on the channel as well. So it's worth, checking out Pete English Literature YouTube channel. Polyglot Translation Services. They've sponsored the International Book Show and they're a partner company now with us. Nubian Nagis Books. Nubian Nagis Books is owned by Sister Legette. And Sister Legette, I believe she sponsored me as well since May 2020, since the first International Book Show. I've known her for over a decade now. I know her personally. And when I used to be part of an organization in Luton in the UK, England, Luton's a place just outside of London. We used to do a lot of events, and she used to come with her suitcases and sell books. And then when I went to events in London as well, I would see her at events. She sells a wide range of books, particularly by UK Black authors. The next another sponsor that I'm going to speak about, Education for All Now. I'm going to let Tamar Foley do the speaking because she's going to be on next, so there's no point of me speaking about everything. But yeah, she's another one of the sponsors of the International Book Show. And then we do have other independent sponsors like Bharti Dhir, George Davis, and other people as well. So shout out to whoever you are, if you're a sponsor or if you're someone who makes a small monthly donation to the International Book Show. It is all appreciated. And if you would like to sponsor the International Book Show in the future, go onto our website, internationalbookshow.com. If you go onto www.internationalbookshow.com and go onto the contact us section, and then just submit the form and say I would like to sponsor, or I'm inquiring about sponsoring the International Book Show, and submit it, and then I will receive it, and then we'll go forward from there. And you may want to sponsor, you may be an author, publisher, someone in the book industry, or if you just have a business that you want to promote as well, please let me know as well, whether you want to speak or whether you want us to make a commercial for you that we can play. Right, let me go now on to Tamar Foley. Tamar Foley is, as I mentioned, from Education for All Now and also Garwell Publishing. She's one of the sponsors of the International Book Show. Please tell the listeners where you're based, briefly introduce yourself, and then go on to tell us about, all that you do.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tamar Foley, and I'm so happy to be with you today. Today, I'll be talking about my business, Education for All Now, and Garwell Publishing. So I'd like to start out first talking about Education for All Now. So we have a new journal that's out, and we are really focusing on social emotional learning and mental health for students in grades 3 through 8. So the name of our journal is Healing Hearts, Poetry, Reflection, and Art Journal for Kids. And this is comprises of poetry, and throughout the book, it talks about and gives students an opportunity to ask questions, to doodle, to write about their feelings. So I want to just do one for you just as an example. It's called Pause and Breathe. I know it hurts and you are in pain. I know it's happening to you all again. But are you aware of how your heart has been? All the trauma, the misery it has ever seen. At times, it must be overwhelming for you. All the anger and sadness that has been due. You have to pause. You have to take a break for your well-being, your own sake. You have to stay calm and practice self-care, knowing when it's time to pause and share. To share what's bothering your peace, to share what's taking away your ease, so you can be fully functioning and alive, so you can become the best and thrive. And so that's just one. And here are the questions that go along with this. What steps do you take to stay calm? Describe them and how you feel after you've implemented them. Describe a world where everyone is caring and understanding of others. How do you share your trauma experiences? And then draw or doodle what you think when reflecting on this poem. Also with this comes a kit. It's called the Healing Hearts Kit. And in the Healing Hearts Kit, you have a magnet just to always remind you to pause and breathe. You have sour candy, because sometimes when we feel anxiety and we just need to calm, sour candy helps us and it helps to keep us focused. We also have crayons, and just so as you're doodling, whether you want to use crayons or you want to use pencils or whatever. And then you have a affirmation card. And this affirmation card just helps you to think about your space and helps you to think about you. A calming strip, just rubbing it, and when you're feeling anxious, helping you to stay calm. A bookmark to go along with the Healing Hearts journal, and a stress ball. And the stress ball just has different kinds. You care, we care about you, be kind. Since it is so stressful for kids right now, especially they're going back to school, I want to talk just a moment about the suicide rate. And as you notice, the poem talks about trauma. So the suicide rate for African Americans in 2018 for children was 8.2%. Now it has risen to 11.2%. So our kids are experiencing a lot of trauma, and they are thinking about or taking on suicide. And this also, I want to just give you some rates for other areas. So American Indian and Alaskan Native youth, it's at 36.3%. Hispanic or Latino, 7.9%. White youth, 12.4%. And Asian youth, 9.4%. So the suicide rate is going up, and we really have to work on it, really working with our kids, working with teachers, working with schools. So we do have another book for our journal called Healing Trauma. And this is an affirmation journal for teens and tweens. And so this starts again anywhere from grade 6 going all the way through high school. This just helps them, gives them a positive affirmation for the day, and then asks them to do some writing. And then there's also an area for doodling and drawing. And we feel that this is so important with all the stress and everything that our children, our students, our young adults are going through. So we encourage you, just know that you can find these items at cassiesbigchange.com, or you can also find them at Linktree /Tamar Foley. And also you can connect with us on education for the number 4 allnow.org. And we've just added a new blog. And the new blog is called Mending Minds and Healing Hearts. And this blog was inspired by this journal. And so every week you will have information on how to heal the heart, information on benefits of healing, information on mindfulness. So every week there's something different, but we let you know the week before what's coming up so you can look out for that email. If you're not on our email list and would like to be on it, please go to educationforallnow.org and put in your contact. We really, really know and really would like to share with you. You can also go on educationforallnow.org/blog and read the blog each week. Thank you so much. And we're so happy that you are joining us today. And if you have a book that you want to publish, please contact us at garwellpublishing.com. We'd love to help you go from a manuscript to a published author. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Tamar Foley, for joining us on this edition of the International Book Show 2024. Dr. Tamar Foley, she is an author as well as a publisher, and her books that she has authored include the Cassie's Big Change series and also the book Healing Hearts. If you would like to contact her regarding her books or her other additional services that she offers, the consultancy and the publishing, the following websites are educationforallnow.org/shop, www.garwellpublishing.com, and www.cassiesbigchange.com.
Greetings. This is New Benegis Books, and my name is Sister Legette, and I've been doing books for a number of years now. And I would like to say thank you, McKonan, for allowing me to come onto the International Book Show. Right, the book that I'm going to recommend is this book called The West and the Rest of Us, and this is by Chinwezu. It's called The West and the Rest of Us, White Predators, Black Slavers, and the African Elite. And this is a very good book. I mean, it talks about what happened to us during the transatlantic slave trade and what has happened from then and what has happened now, the crisis that we're in globally, because due to the Western expansion. And it talks about the Black slavers, how they cooperated in preparing Africa for conquest, the unequal exchange and mechanism used to impoverish Africa, the myth of racism, their usefulness, the ploys to keep Africa oppressed, etc. And it's a very, very good book. It's one that has to be dissected as well. So I'm talking about what had happened to us. Also, we have another book here talking about the African and Caribbean communities in Britain, the history of the African and Caribbean communities in Britain, written by Hakeem Adi. And this talks about how we, as a Black Britain's population, had developed in the modern times, especially since the end of the Second World War, when we were invited to come over to the United Kingdom because it was devastated. And so the influx of us coming from the Caribbean and what took place. So we went to Bristol, Edinburgh, Cardiff, Leeds, Nottingham, Birmingham, and how the first Africans set up Britain in their thousands. And so this is also talking about one of the great events that we have. In London, it starts off is with the Notting Hill Carnival and how Carnival has expanded over the years. Now, we also talk about and have a book which I highly recommend. This is the Vegan Cuisine, This is by the husband and wife team, and they talk about how you could change your diet. I mean, eating less meat and fish, and how you can use the fruits and vegetables from the Caribbean and make delicious meals to literally, we don't eat enough fruit and vegetables, and how we can sustain ourselves and live a better and longer life. We also have a book here called the Affirmation Coloring Book, and it is absolutely beautiful. And it's about this little girl, Leah, and how she develops her creative abilities and builds special skills. And she's a child who's unique. And as you can see here, she's looking in the mirror, looking at what she can do and aspire. So if I flick through the book, that's another bit here. It says this coloring book belongs to, and it says, hello, I'm Leah, and I like playing basketball. What do you like to play outside? So you can actually see Leah, you can color it in, and then you can talk about what you like to do as well. It's also got some maths. I will just actually look at here. For example, count and match, and what's opposites as well. One of the things I wanted to talk about was this book by Avril Nanton and Jodie Burton, Black London. And it's an excellent book. It's about history, art, and culture all over 120 places. And it goes into London area, which is north, south, east, and west of London, and let you know you could do like a walking guide, and it enables you to look and see where we were and the things that we've accomplished over the years. And it's also got a timeline as well. And this timeline starts from before the Common Era, 1460 BC, and they go right up until the modern time. So the modern time will be, when they did this book, it was 2020. And as you can see, there's Carnival. So it's split up into, as I said, the areas, and you can literally go and do your own personal and individual tour. Now, for example, you can go, this one is in, let me get the particular one, I believe it's in South. Okay, this is in Central and East London. And if you flick through, that's the Mary Seacole statue. And also, not only does it give you a picture, it gives you some history facts, and you can just go and look and see for yourself and take some pictures, and at least you're gaining knowledge about what had taken place in England. I've got another one here, a placard, and it's green, the African National Congress as well. So it's a variety of art, culture, as it says, and here's this one, which it's Haile Selassie, the statue. It's no longer there. It had been vandalized, you see, and this was in the park. Where is it, Daphne? This was in the park. I'll have to find out. So lots and lots to see and do. And yes, the Nubian Negis books, you can be contacted by email, Nubian Negis Books, that's NUBIANNIGIST books, BWOKS7 @gmail.com. And I'm also on Instagram, Nubian Negis Books as well. So thank you very much for listening. And this is just a little snippet of the books that we have. And of course, if there's a book that you require, you could always contact us and we try and get it for you. So for the authors, like I always like to speak to the authors and say that they're doing a great job, because every book is effective, and there's also ways, different genres. So my genre is the Black British authors, to push and promote, because they're not really heard. And over the years, and the help with McKonan, his hard work of what he's been doing has really highlighted there are a lot of Black authors here, because as we were growing up, we only knew a lot of the American brothers and sisters authors. So I love this platform because it's international, and we've had, as McKonan will tell you, lots and lots of authors from America, Canada, Africa, all parts of Europe as well. And it's been a wonderful to be on the show as a sponsor, and it's going from strength to strength. So I would say to McKonan, Sankofa, to keep up the excellent work, because it's not easy trying to get in contact with all the authors. And for the authors, I would recommend that you just continue. Yes, there's that word, the writer's block, but I would suggest that you just continue and put your work out there, because it's needed. And as I always say, that one book could literally change somebody else's life. One of my favorite books at the moment, and I did read it, it was fantastic, was the Bob Marley book. Why I love this book is because just an ordinary man had his gift, and before you knew it, everyone in the whole wide world knew about him, you see, and his talent, his music, writing, and of course, it talks about his personal life as well. Now, this book is written, first book written about him was by his manager, Don Taylor. And it's a great insight into the Jamaican history as well, and how the music developed on the island and also Bermuda, and how an island in the sun, one of many islands, how Jamaica, the music has gone from strength to strength. So it's just like a book. You could read a book, and before you know it, that book are sold all over the world and then get translated into many languages, you see. So with this book, everyone, everywhere you go, they know of Bob Marley. And the thing that is so funny, a lot of brothers and sisters from Africa thought that Jamaica was in Africa. But when they realized where it was like, wow, and awesome. And yes, we want to hear from all, music, whatever, who writes music, who writes about cooking, and so forth. So as I said, thank you again for hosting the show again, McKonan, and it's going from strength to strength. And you can always contact me. I support the authors. I support you all, and just continue doing the beautiful work. And as Africans, yes, at home and abroad, this platform is beautiful because we get to see each other. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again. Nubian Nagis Books.
Well, thank you very much, Sister Legette, for joining us on this edition of the International Book Show, September 2024. Sister Legette is the founder of Nubian Nagis Books. Nubian Nagis Books sell a wide variety of books from Black authors. These include books with the themes such as African history, Pan-Africanism, spirituality, health, children's books, and contemporary books. You can contact Sister Legette via her email address. The email address is nubianligistbooks7@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Makone. Yeah, my name is Peter Okonkwo. I'm a Nigerian writer, author, poet, and the host and founder of P English Literature, where I review books and conduct interviews with authors around the world. So I'll be showcasing my books, Osfort, Kismet and Impediment, and Fate in the Dungeon of Doom. This is my second published book, and this is my third published book. It's a poetry anthology, and they're all centered on the themes of philosophy, on the art issues of life, on the several other themes actually. Starting from here, which is my second collection, um, Section Origin of Doom is written in three sections, in three parts. We have the Poems of Faith, which is deeply philosophical, it is existence centered, and it touched on different sort of themes, yeah, relating to the human destiny, human fate, predestination. So in here you find a bit of stoicism in it, you find a bit of determinism, yeah, and several other questions about the human fate. It's written from the perception of a man who has been through life, horrible circumstances and situation, who now is frustrated and asking questions about his real identity. Then in the second section of the book, it's the poems of Kohame, which is a story of a Nigerian man gone missing and the aftermath of his disappearance and his family members. So the poems of Kohame is written in the point of view of Kohame, which is the main character. We have Etienne, which is a younger brother of Kohame, and Vanessa, which is a mother of Kohame. So these people, that means the Kohame family, went through pain and agony trying to know where exactly Kohame is. So it's all a roller coaster of sadness, disappearance, family dynamics, dysfunctionality, and all of that. And the third section touched on other poems, yeah, or touch on other poems. Then my third book rather, sorry, is Usford Kismet and Impediment, which is more like, which was it was a featured book of the month, this September, at the Akure Book Club, at the Nigeria Akure Book Club, yeah, which I happens to be the founder of, yeah. So we featured it in a recent book club that we had 3 days ago, and it was very. We had a lovely conversation around it, and it's a book on human fate and obstacles. Yeah, because we as human, as in one time or the other in our life, experience difficulties, experience obstacles in one area of our life, and the discretion of we on how to navigate through it is what is written in here. So, as the title depicts, whose fault, kismet, or impediment. Kismet is another word for destiny, for human fate, and impediment is another word for obstacle. So the subtitle takes difficult queries to demystify the realness of the human fate amidst obstacle. Yeah, so this book it's a bit philosophical, it's a bit spiritual, it's a bit hard. It's still touched on the human condition. Yeah, but in it, there is a sort of contemplation. In it, written from the point of the narrator. I need to mention that almost all of the poems are written. It's actually a collection of poetry, and it's written in the first person point of view, with the narrator asking different sort of questions about his identity, different kinds of question around obstacle, around fate, around if obstacle is the making of God, evil forces, or it's a marks that we must express it in the line of destiny, in the line of life, or in the realization of sources. Yeah. So in here, it's written from the perception of a man who has been to chronic, heart-wrenching obstacles of life, and with a bit of dejection, frustration, and suicidal thoughts. It was very, very heart-wrenching. I blocked a bit when people were talking about it at the book club and sharing their opinion. Yeah, the most recent collection that I have is the Escape from the Unseen Dungeon book series, which A Cry for Mercy happens to be the first book. Yeah, I exhibited this book at the Nigerian International Book Fair 2024 in May, and I was able to sell some copies there alongside with my other titles. So Escape from the Unseen Dungeon is my recent publication, and it's made in three category. We have the volume one. The volume one is A Cry for Mercy, and the volume two is oh no, the volume two is How the Demons Sleep, and the third volume is I Saw the Light. So A Cry for Mercy it's a collection of poems that are existence centered, more like a book of plea and lamentation. It is sad, overly sad. I think perhaps it's the second saddest. Well, it's not as if it's thoroughly sad, but it's in the book. There's several set of human experience that readers can relate to, that people can get to understand, and gain knowledge from, gain so many things from. Yeah. So A Cry for Mercy. It's the first one. It's expound on human pain and lamentation, the hard issues of life with a touch of spirituality in it, and it's very, very deep and well recommended. Then the second series, which is a follow-up book to it, volume two, is How the Demons Live. Yeah, How the Demons Live a bit. It's a continuation of the of the of the poet lamentation in A Cry for Mercy. And in here we talked a bit about demonology, about spirituality, how about the connection of human pain to about the spiritual implication of human pain and lamentation, or if it sort of have a connection spiritually, not so many spiritual things are in spawn, but in it a billion of philosophy. I'm a good level of philosophy. I love words of wisdom. I love to ask questions about the nature of the human person and human fate, human obstacle, human trajectory. And in it, a lot of philosophical questions mixed together with philosophy, a lot of philosophical question rather, pardon me for that, mixed with a lot of spirituality. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, then I Saw the Light. It's a book of uh, liberation, a book of freedom. Yeah, so it's a journey from the pain to I don't want to give much away from the pain and lamentation to the discovery state to realize. And yeah, I need to mention to that in the series, more like the title supposed, Escape from the Unseen Dungeons. Yes, dealing with something that is unseen, dungeons that is unseen. So the writer was basically trapped in a dungeon that is unaware of, a dungeon that he cannot see with his physical eyes, and that pokes the discussion. One of the things I talk about in the book is the connection of human spiritual quality and the physical, and the connection of the physical as over the connection of the physical realm as over spiritual realm. Because as being posted in the book, it seems as if the narrator is trying to push a notion that the spiritual control the physical. Yeah, so that's about that. Another thing I'd like to talk about is my show. I am the show presenter and the founder of P English Literature, which was founded 2020, 4 years ago. And we're registered. Recently, we got registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, and we have an RC number. Yes, we legally registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria. And yeah, on P English Literature in short, PEL, we review books and we conduct interviews with authors around the world. It's more like a literature show. It's more like a literary platform that promotes literature works, that promote authors of different heritage, of different culture, of different genres, of different backgrounds. And from the inception in 2020, we first started by promoting self-published author, but so far we've been able to diversify and also include non-traditional and also include traditional authors in our reach. And recently, we've always been on. Our show is always live. Yeah, a main channel on YouTube, P English Literature. But recently, we launched an audio version of our show. So currently, our show is being distributed widely on Amazon Music, on Spotify, on iTunes Radio, on Apple Podcast, on Samsung Podcast, on name it, iHeartRadio, Podcast Index, a host of other podcast channels, which I'm really really excited about because I feel like it's kind of created an extensive engagement, an extensive view, an extensive sort of people getting to know that yeah, this is what we do, and more like an extensive audience because I'm trying my best to reach out to as much people as possible and to push our author forward, or wherever author get featured on our show actually forward in the internet space. So basically, We're using the internet space to promote literature works. We're using the internet space to bridge a gap, and we're promoting literature across borders, irrespective of the location you are, irrespective of the genres you write in, irrespective of whatsoever. Yeah, so that is all about P English literature so far. Actually, since inception in 2020, we've been able to interview 700 authors and counting. Yeah, and we've been able to feature book shows, book conversation, book clubs, literary festivals in form of writers conferences actually, online writers conferences, which are gonna do another one for this year. Yeah, open mic show and several other literary activities that we showcase here on P English Lecture. So I am the founder, and my name is Peter Okonkwo. I'm an author myself. I'm a show and presenter, I'm a community builder, I'm a literature enthusiast, I'm a literary critic, and you can look me up on Google by searching through my name, Peter Okonkwo. My page will pop up, my books will pop up, my show too will pop up, and everything about me is all on the internet space. Yeah, so thank you so much for the opportunity to share my books, my works, my literature endeavor, and everything. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, for joining us on this edition of the International Book Show, September 2024. Peter is a Nigerian author. As well as being a Nigerian author, Peter Okonkwo, he is also the founder of the YouTube channel P English Literature. Peter's book titles include Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment, Escape from the Unseen Dungeons, Volume 1, A Cry for Mercy, and Escape from the Unseen Dungeons, Volume 2, How the Demons Leave. If you are interested in purchasing any of Peter's books, they are available to be purchased from online via Amazon. Thank you all for watching this episode of the International Book Show, September 2024. I hope you all watch the show next month. But until then, again, I would just like to thank you all. Please join the Facebook group, the International Book Show Facebook group, and check out the website, internationalbookshow.com. If you go on the website, you'll be able to watch previous shows of the video shows and also the radio show podcast interviews that I've done with other authors. If you're an author that would like to be featured on the International Book Show in the future, please get in contact with me. The email address is info@internationalbookshow.com. That's info@internationalbookshow.com. Alternatively, if you go on the website, internationalbookshow.com, and then there's a section that says contact us, and you fill in the contact form and just declare your interest in, if you're author or if you would like to recommend someone to feature on the International Book Show. But once again, this is McConnell Sankofa saying thank you for listening to the show and goodbye, everyone.